What's up, y'all? My name is Boogie Knight 75, and welcome to Through the Pages. This is an interview podcast where we talk to various content creators, developers, and up-and-coming artists of the creative ilk, find out more about their past, their present, and their future. And I could not think of a better guest to start this one off with than the very talented and very creative and very fun Rae Killhim. Good evening, Rae. Welcome to the cast.
Hey, how's it going?
Doing okay, doing okay. So,
Good.
yeah, did you have a good day?
Yeah, so far. How about you? Just busy.
Yeah, busy's always good. So I've got a
Yeah.
list of several different questions I'm going to ask Rae, and she can take all the time she wants. And before I get started, links will be in the description below to her website, as well as her author page on Facebook and her Twitter page, where you can get more information about her books and little things that are coming up for her. So with that being said, Rae, do you want to get started?
Let's do it.
All right, so I start these off pretty much in the exact same way every time I talk to somebody. So just for brass tacks, what inspired you to want to start writing?
Well, I don't think it was something that necessarily inspired me. I was always writing and I was always reading. Like like way before I even knew what a lot of stuff were like. Because I have very vague memories of being like a toddler and reading like Dr. Seuss and stuff and reading all these children's books. But according to my mom, like I was always like scribbling and just always doing stuff on paper and just always just doing stuff like that. And then and as I grew older, I just kind of started to read a lot more and I started to write a lot more and I developed my skills. And by the time I was in third grade, I had like a high school freshman level writing skills, I guess,
Hmm.
like or advancement, like something like that. But yeah, so I've been writing my whole life, and like just I knew for as long as I've known, I have always wanted to be a writer. So yeah,
So achieving the dream one day at a time.
pretty much.
Nothing wrong with that. So then this does beg the question of who were some of your favorite authors when you grew up, and are they still among your favorites today?
So it's funny because like every time someone asks me this question, I always say the same thing, and I get a lot of laughs. But it's cliche. But I grew up on the Harry Potter series. I loved Harry Potter growing up. That was like my biggest read ever. I loved those books so much, and I don't know. I mean, lately with J.K. Rowling, she's had a lot of controversy, especially with like the trans community. So I can't say I'm too fond of her nowadays, but I still love Harry Potter with all my heart. That's my childhood right there. So, and it's funny because like when people go on these like when cancel culture kicks in and they're just like, don't support these people, they're awful. But it's like I feel like you can still separate the artist from the art. Like
Mm-hmm.
like you shouldn't have to like punish yourself, I guess, if you really like that book and not like you choose not to read it to like boycott that author. But I
Mm-hmm.
feel like you don't have to do that. I feel like if you really really like something, you can still like it, but you don't have to support the author personally. Like that's how I see it.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I mean, I'm kind of the same way. It's almost like kind of just broad. It's almost like separation of church and state. You can like one thing but not appreciate the other. So why should
Exactly.
the entire craft, for a lack of better description, suffer because of the person who did it? I mean, there's some fantastic artwork out there, but the people that created the paintings or the sketches are complete idiots.
Exactly. Well, and it's funny though, because like a lot of people kind of pick and choose who they cancel and who they don't. Like, so J.K. Rowling, like she made some comments that are very iffy, and a lot of people are canceling her because they think she's transphobic. But it's like no one talks about the fact that Lewis Carroll fancied like 14-year-old girls, no 12-year-old girls. And it's like I mean, I obviously don't support that, but I still loved Alice in Wonderland. That's it's a classic story. But like you can still enjoy a piece of work, but not the artist. Like that's just how I see it. And I don't think supporting work is necessarily supporting the author. I don't know. I just that's the best way I can describe it.
No, you raise a really valid point. I think that's something. a lot of people, in my personal opinion, of course, tend to focus on the macro as opposed to the micro. The micro being that she made some hinky comments, but as a result, they're like, okay, well, now we have to completely cut down the forest because a couple of trees are dirty.
Seriously, and that's not how it should be, you know. Like, you should be able to read a Harry Potter book or watch the movies or anything and, you know, still enjoy it. You know, if you truly enjoy it, go ahead and enjoy it. But that doesn't mean you have to support the author. And yeah, like I said, there's a lot of authors who've done some really crummy things in their lives, but a lot of people overlook those too. But it's just we live in such a pick and choose world, or yeah, whatever. So.
Well, I mean, you could even just like to reverse it. Just before we go to the next question, I mean, think about C.S. Lewis. I mean, the Narnia series, and the guy was a very, very right-wing Christian person.
Oh yeah, very much so. And like, even though at the time period he was living in, it was, you know, women weren't truly equal. Like, he had he has like several sexist quotes in there, but that doesn't mean like the book is bad. You know, I take it for what it was. Like, it was written in the time period before women had rights. So, and yeah, he was a right wing Christian, but you know, at the same time, I don't really follow him as an author. I follow his work because I also read those in high school. Yeah.
Yeah. So okay, so on since after that little deviation, let's kind of just broaden that question that we just dovetail off. So who are or were some of your inspirations in general, past, present, doesn't matter, just throw a few out there.
So if I were to take some inspiration from people, I would say obviously like J.K. Rowling, like I just said. I really did love the Narnia series, so C.S. Lewis was a really huge inspiration. J.R.R. Tolkien. Oh yeah, and then Carolyn Keene. She wrote the Nancy Drew books.
Oh yeah.
Well, yeah. I was okay. So as a child, I was always reading Nancy Drew. Like, I loved her. Like, she was my first. She was my first, I guess, role model in a way, because it was like directly targeted for girls. You know, like, you had the Hardy Boys, and I mean, you had other books that were mostly aimed at boys, but Nancy Drew was all girl power. So I loved. Yeah, I grew up reading Carolyn Keene, so I would honestly list her as an inspiration too, even though it's comprised of many different authors. So
Yeah, and I know what you mean too. I mean, just growing up, you know, I grew up on the Hardy Boys and Tom Swift, and occasionally there were crossovers between with Nancy Drew making appearances in the Hardy Boys books or something like that, which was always kind of cool when you think about it.
Oh yeah, it was very cool. I loved the connection that they had, that they were in the same universe, you know, but it was like two different stories and like three different characters, but they all inhabited the same universe, and they all often crossed over, and it was really cool.
Oh yeah, no, I did love that. Okay, cool. So, with that being said, let's. How about you take us through your writing process? How do you come up with ideas? How do you transpose them into plots, characters? Just kind of give us an overview about how you do all that.
Okay, let me try to be as clear as I can here. So, usually it starts with an idea. I mean, obviously, but like sometimes. So let me think. So like, I have an idea in my head. It might be like a certain character, or a certain, you know, like a event that I see in my head, like something I see happening. Like, how do I say this? Like, I see a specific scene, I guess. Or sometimes it's just a specific theme I want to go with, like a genre, you know. But sometimes it just starts with an idea, and then as days go by, it kind of like blossoms into more of a story that I can see in my head. And then as I start to go, I start to really kind of flesh it out a bit and kind of get the basics down. And then when I feel confident that this is something I could write or I could accomplish, I start with like a Bible, I think is what they call it. So it's like, basically it's kind of like the foundation of it. So basically it's like the cast, the villains or whatever, the events, like certain notes that I make to myself to incorporate into the book. Like, if I see a specific character escaping a bridge as it collapses, I'm gonna put that in there, you know, and just as I'm writing it, I'll incorporate that into the story. But it starts with that, and then the actual writing process is it takes multiple revisions and writing and editing. So what I like to do personally is I like to start by handwriting it. So I will get myself a notebook and a pen, and I will just go to town writing it. And this also helps for a lot of reasons, because by the time I finish and I'm able to start typing it, I can start revising and editing as I go. So whatever I wrote in the notebook doesn't always get typed up. You know, some things I start to edit and revise as I go, and then when I'm done typing, you know, I revise it and edit it like more than 4 times at least. Because I'm so anal about how I want my story to be, you know. So and then when I'm all done, it's time to send it off to an editor and get the publishing process going.
Well, I mean, you need to be, anal when it comes to your story, because that's a product of your mind. That's a product of your creativity.
Exactly.
So if you're just doing it pell-mell, willy-nilly, it's gonna reflect on the end result.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. You're absolutely right. Like I'm very specific, and I like to be as specific and detailed as I can. And if the story doesn't flow in my head, then I worded it wrong.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to be able to read it and have it just completely just flow in my head, you know? Like I need it to be perfect in my eyes, because if it's perfect for me, it's going to be perfect for everyone else.
That's a great way of thinking about it. I mean, because I've read enough books in my day to be able to distinguish like who's put a lot of time and effort into it. Like, for example, Ellen Crosby, one of my favorite authors. Now, mind you, each person is different, but I don't think anybody really wants a novel to come out something like, say, a GD Nomad game, full of typos and bad issues and just things that don't flow very well, that separate a really well put together novel from one that just kind of seems like it was put together in 24 hours as a force march.
Exactly. And it's like the number one rule, like Stephen King has said this, a handful of people have said this, but the number one rule for writing is not to do it for someone else. Like, don't, like, if you have a story in your head, don't write it for what other people might take of it. Like, it doesn't matter what they think, it doesn't matter what they feel. Like, do it for yourself. Because when you do it for yourself, that's when you're getting the story that you want out there. And you know, there will still be people who don't like it, and that's fine, because they're entitled to their opinions. But I mean, as long as you are confident with your work and you stand by it 100%, then you've done it right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, well, I mean, it's funny that you do mention doing it for yourself instead of for other people, because I think so many people have this concept in their heads that they're doing it strictly for fan service, whether it's writing a book, or recording music, developing video games or movies. They do it strictly for the fan service, and then it's obviously so blatant pandering that the creative process just goes to the wayside.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, there's nothing wrong with fan service either. Like, if you have a number of fans requesting like a certain character to come back, or you know, and you do write that into your story, that's totally fine. Like, fan service is good if you know how to do it right.
Mm-hmm.
But for the most part, you should never do it for anyone else, because then you're gonna be I don't know. I don't know, because I don't think like that, but I can't imagine you're gonna get the story that you want out there because you're so focused on making everyone happy.
Mm-hmm.
And that's something I've always done naturally. Like, I've never once not thought about writing for myself. My dogs are in the backyard. So, yeah, and it's like, you're right. You can tell when someone wrote something out in like 5 minutes and published it versus someone who took their time to craft their art and to make it perfect. And that's, you know, as an author personally, like, my biggest fear is just not looking good, I guess. Like, it's like I want to be as professional and as tidy and organized as I can be, you know. So,
Yeah, no, and it's really reflective upon your books and the work that you put into it, and I really respect you and admire you for all that.
yeah, well, I was talking to Meowjid yesterday. We were talking about, you know, editors and stuff, and like how they need to be passionate about the book that they're editing, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, when you pick up a book and you read it, you don't blame the editor for mistakes or, you know, anything. It's always the author that gets the blame for it.
Mm-hmm.
So when someone picks up my book, I want them to, you know, be impressed at the first sight or their first impression. I want them to really, you know, be impressed with it because like I said, I couldn't imagine someone picking up my book and just thinking it's total crap, you know.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I mean, and I think, at least from somebody who's a voracious reader, I think like it's the first couple of chapters in particular that really hook the reader to come into that world, and that sets the stage for the rest of the story between characters, plot, rising action, climax, falling action, anything like that, because that's going to set the stage. So if that's good, but the rest of the book seems rushed or poorly edited, it's going to be reflective upon, well, as you said, the writer, as opposed to the other people that put work into it.
Exactly. You know, first impressions are everything. Like when you look at it actually starts with the book cover. If you don't have a catchy book cover, people aren't going to be interested in reading it, you know. And then when they open those first few pages, they want to be hooked. They want to be reeled in, you know, like they want to immerse themselves in that story. So
Mm.
literally, when it comes to books, it's all about first impressions, and I think that's why that term "never judge a book by its cover" comes into place.
Exactly. So, with all that talk about the writing process, how long does it usually take to write a story, let's just say from inception to completion? Can you give us a ballpark figure?
Oh, it honestly depends on the length of the book that you're writing, and it depends on how much you add in later, and then it all depends, honestly. When I wrote De Mortis, it took me, I don't know, I can't give you like a good estimate, so I'm just gonna say like for De Mortis, it took me weeks to write. Like it took me weeks to write, and not because I didn't know what to write about, but like
Mm-hmm.
I can't say, but like it took me some time, and then you know when you type it out and then you edit it, it takes months. Honestly, you put a lot of time in your work. You well, I don't know about everyone else, but I slave over my work, so I will be working on my book endlessly with us when I have enough downtime to do it. So, but with my new one coming out soon, that
Mm-hmm.
took me 4 years. That one took me 4 years because I had so much going on in the story, and then I had so much to add into it as the years went by. So I wrote like the basic first draft of it, and then I started to add more and more and more.
Mm-hmm.
And even recently, when I announced I was ready to publish it, turns out there was even more that I needed to add. So it really depends on how ambitious the project is and how long the book is, and it all depends.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. I mean, and as somebody who knows you reasonably well, I can vouch that Ray does put a ton of time and effort into perfecting her books, and it is reflective upon the outcome from what I have read and what you permitted me to read every now and again, and it shows, and I'm very proud of how that's come along.
Hey, thanks. Yeah, no, I mean, like I said, it's passion. Like
Mm-hmm.
it's when you really care about something, you don't see it as work. You see it as, I guess playing around. Like
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how to describe it, but I feel like it's work. I feel like it's just something that I really love doing.
Well, I mean that's often a saying that's often floated around is that if you like what you do, you'll never work a day in your life,
Exactly.
which seems
Like
hokey a lot. Go ahead, sorry, I cut you off.
no, I was gonna say no. You're absolutely right. Like that's exactly how I feel about it. Yep. I don't consider it work. I consider it playing.
Mm-hmm. No, it's true, and I mean, I know a lot of people consider that saying hokey, but when you do find that passion project, gives you that spark which lights that bonfire in you, it's really it really kind of comes into fruition because I think about some of the things I've some gigs you've given me in the past, and it doesn't feel like work because I love doing it.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Like when I first got into self-publishing, I was nervous that I was gonna mess it up because like I had to do everything myself, you know. So I was afraid like I wasn't gonna be able to hook people in the way I wanted to. But honestly, I really love the whole aspect of self-publishing, and honestly, it's yeah. Honestly, if I could do this for a living, which hopefully someday, like I'm on the right track, but
Hmm.
yeah, if this turns into a career, like I'm gonna die a happy person.
Now, we are going to get into De Mortis in just a couple of minutes, but before that, do you remember any of the first stories you ever wrote?
Oh God. Okay, so my earliest memory was 2001-ish, 2000. I was like 8 or 9 or possibly 7. I think I was 7. Well, anyways, that's irrelevant. But like the earliest story I remember was I was wanting to write like a children's mystery series, like Goosebumps kind of, because I was such a huge fan of Goosebumps. I
Oh,
was like
yeah.
part of I had every single book. I was part of the fan club. I would draw the logo because I just loved those books so much. But um, I wanted to write something like that. But it was instead of just like different kids in each book, it was like the same cast solving different mysteries and like um,
Like, again, like Nancy Drew or like Boxcar Children.
yes, there you go. Seriously, like yeah. Oh my gosh, I'm bringing back a lot of memories here. But
Yeah, I was
like
going to say
yeah,
Boxcar Children. That takes me back.
like yeah. Right.
That was before
But
your
yeah,
time.
well, I know what they are, but like, dang, like, anyways, but yeah, yeah, that was my first series, and I forgot what it was called. I think it was some stupid like the Mystery Kids or something. Like, I was 7, so I was, it was really dumb, but like, it was because I also okay, so I also really liked Power Rangers growing up, so like I till this day I'm still obsessed with the number 5, and my stories usually generically have like 3 male characters and 2 female characters because I'm just weird like that. But it was gonna have like 5 kids, you know, really good friends, and they solved paranormal mysteries together and stuff. But the funny thing, the funny thing was, I made my mom one of the characters.
Oh, God.
Her name was gonna be Becky, and she was gonna wear pigtails and short shorts and a bra for some reason. And my mom's like, why can't she wear something that's not so, you know, revealing? I was like, because she's the pretty one, duh. It was like in my mind that was like that's how it made sense. But looking back, that was really stupid.
I was going to say, I know just enough about your mom that I could just see her shaking her head at that.
Well, I mean, I'm just a kid, so like obviously she's not gonna like call me out on it, but like I just remember she'd be like, why does she need to wear just a bra? Like, can't she wear like other shirts? And I was like, no, mom, God, you're messing up my story.
Art imitates life. Hey, yo.
Well, it was like funny because like the other characters were all fleshed out and stuff, and her character was just like there to be the pretty one. Like it was just there to be like didn't compliment, didn't offer any help or wasn't just literally there to be pretty. So
Kind of the whole den mother persona, I guess.
well, I mean her character was going to be a kid, so it wasn't going to be like literally based off my mom, but I stole her name and yeah, but it was funny looking back.
That is pretty cool. Well, I mean, I do like the concept because I feel like a lot of people growing up, they have those aspirations of, solving mysteries. You're like, what do you want to be when you grow up? Firefighter, police officer, EMT. You just kind of you dovetail off that.
Yeah, and I like it was I just yeah, like I knew I wanted to write and I loved writing, but I just didn't know what to do. Oh my gosh. And then yeah, another early oh my god, okay. You ever see Jurassic Park 3?
Unfortunately, yes.
Okay. Well, my parents took me to see that when it was coming out in theaters. So this was the same roughly the same time period. I
Mhm.
think it was actually 2001. Well, anyways, my parents took me to see that, and I freaking loved it. And freaking, I had another idea for a book where it was like, kind of embarrassed talking about, but like,
Well, now you baited us, so you have to tell us.
it'd be a group of people. Oh my god, it'd be a group of people flying to an island, and they find out dinosaurs are like alive and well, and it like chases them throughout the island. And there was four main characters, but like basically they were trying to survive the dinosaurs and stuff. But it was like it just I don't know how to describe it, but it was like it was called Nightmare Vacation. I was 7, people. Just remember that. I was 7. My titles and my stories have advanced since then. Oh my god.
Well, how about we shift back to the present and take the segue their minds into something more modern? How about that?
Sounds good.
Now, your first major published novel is called De Mortis. Now, how did you come up with the idea for De Mortis itself?
Well, it was inspired by very different things. Like, I mean, I've heard people say Slender Man, but honestly, that's literally not anything that I would ever base my stuff off. It was actually inspired by a handful of different things, like the Boogeyman. Like, what would you do if you took the Boogeyman and some elements of Candyman and a lot of other things around the world and mix it into one terrifying monster, you know? And that's pretty much where I got the inspiration for De Mortis. Like I wanted a character that seemed powerful and unstoppable, you know, like
Mhm.
if you put yourself in the character's shoes, how would you stop something that was unstoppable? You know, like I wanted a monster that would be remembered for that, you know. So I was watching this video. And it was like really disturbing because it was like true 911 calls, and it was a kid like made a 911 call, and the kid kept saying he was here and stuff, and like freaking out and screaming on the phone. And I was like, that is so chilling. Like imagine being a police officer or dispatch officer and then getting that phone call, you know. And then I thought that that is what inspired me to start writing De Mortis, and that's literally the prologue of it too. That's like the very beginning.
That's
Oh,
amazing.
yeah, that, I mean, I had an idea for a while, but that video that I watched was like the tipping point. That's when I was like, okay, I have to write this. I was so inspired by that poor kid's misfortune. So, and for the record, if anyone's curious, I think it was actually a fake police call. Like it was promoting something like a new album or something, but it seemed genuine. But that's what inspired.
Kind of like
That's
a
what
creepy
tipped.
pasta almost.
Kinda. I mean, oh, and that's another thing that inspired me too was creepypastas. Like, I never really was into creepypastas myself, but
Mm.
I remember thinking to myself, you know, being a writer, I could actually probably write a creepypasta, and it would probably, you know, it'd probably be a lot better than a lot of these. And I was like, why don't I write something that is better than a creepypasta? So, yeah, that's kind of like all the inspiration I got from De Mortis.
No, that's cool because, like, I'm on the No Sleep subreddit quite a bit, which is a lot of horror-driven things.
Oh,
Like,
I love No Sleep. Yeah, no, I totally get what you're saying.
yeah. So I mean, and a lot. I mean, and some of the stories on No Sleep, they're pretty just poorly put together. Like it's like the person actually is running on no sleep, and this is coming from somebody that goes like 30+ hours without sleeping at a go.
Yeah, and that's the thing though, is like that's what I like about creepypasta is that I can understand the potential of a good original monster, but the writing isn't done right sometimes, and it's not, the delivery is not on, like it's not good. And that's what I wanted to do. Like I wanted to create my own creepypasta, but with better writing, you know.
Mhm.
So
Yeah, I mean, even just looking. Let's just before we go to the next question, just to kind of like just kind of wind that down. I mean, think about the Slender Man urban legend. It started as a creepy slash copy pasta, completely
yeah.
ambiguous, and just look how it took shape. So with De Mortis being fleshed out, I mean, I'm going to say when, not if, because I'm quietly optimistic that you are going to do very well.
Well, thank you.
Not biased at all. Um, just think about it. I mean, the amount of detail that goes into something, it's like the movie Inception. It plants the seed itself.
I mean, yeah, like I just like I said, when I first was inspired to write this, I wanted to create my own kind of monster that would, I don't want to say iconic, but like I wanted a monster that would go on to be, I
Legend.
an icon. Yeah, well, an icon, I guess. Like,
Mm,
I mean, I'm not worldwide famous or anything, but I wanted that to be like, I wanted that to be known.
I
I
know
guess.
I know exactly what you're implying, what you're trying to
Yeah.
get across. I mean, I know the words on the tip of my tongue as well, and I just really can't put like the thought to word. I mean, I guess kind
Well,
of it's like that line that Liam Neeson says from Batman Begins: "You become something better." What is that? Legend.
well, ironically, I like being a writer. I can't even talk clearly. Like me and Meowjid were both talking about this, but like we cannot talk properly or think properly. But when it comes to writing, it's like I have everything I need for a good story. So
No, I'm the exact same way. Like when I'm working in general, I'm kind of like potato, tomato, blah blah, risotto, and then like you've seen some of my videos and like heard me ramble and like all of that's shot from the hip, and apparently people are like, wait, you actually are quite eloquent. I'm like, gee, thanks.
well, and it's like I think a lot of people who actually know me, when I tell them I'm a writer, they're just like, "Oh, that's cool, good for you," but they don't actually like stop to like read it or like get to know what I wrote and stuff. And then when they do, they're like, "That was actually pretty good." Yeah, like, and I'm not trying to toot my own horns. I'm just saying, like, I think a lot of people in my personal life have underestimated me a lot of times. And
Mhm.
like when I write, like I said, I put all my heart and soul into it. I really I just really put everything I have into it. And then they're just like, that was actually a really good story. Like, I really enjoyed that. Like, they realize that there's more to me than, I guess, meets the
Meets the
eye.
eye. Just like that song by Seether. Um, anyways, so here's the next question I want to kind of dive into, and this is kind of a two-pronged question. The first part being, what made you want to create a sequel to De Mortis, and then to follow up on that, do you think there will be a third De Mortis novel to kind of round it out into a trilogy, or has that kind of come to mind?
Oh, yeah. Okay. So, originally De Mortis was going to be a novella because well, like I made it short for a reason because I like another inspiration I had for De Mortis was Hellraiser. I love,
Oh yeah.
yeah, Hellraiser is my absolute favorite movie. So I wanted a character that was also a psychological horror. Like I wanted to tap into that twisted, demented psychological horror state. But I read the novella, which was The Hellbound Heart.
Love it.
Yeah, exactly. And I loved it. I loved it so much. And I was like, that's what inspired me to write De Mortis as a novella. So I intentionally made it short because it was going to be a standalone novella basically. But a couple of years went by, and I kept thinking about. I was like, in my mind, there's a story in there for a sequel. I just know it, but I'm afraid I'm going to ruin it because a lot of sequels are not very good. So I didn't want to ruin it because I liked the way De Mortis turned out. I was really proud of it, and yeah, so I didn't want to ruin it, but I just at the back of my mind, I kept thinking there was more to the universe. There was more to the story I could tell, and I could see snippets of I could see like characters, and I could see certain events. Like I was telling you earlier, like I could see certain things in my head. And finally, I was just like, you know what? Screw it. I was like, let's just write a sequel. So I was actually still working on the book that I'm working on now, the new one. I was working on that, but then I was like, let's put that to the side for now and focus on the De Mortis sequel. And yeah, so I wrote it, and I actually really liked the way it turned out. And I think a lot of other people did too, because a lot of the reviews I've gotten say that it's better than the first one. So I think I actually hit the mark that I was looking for and then some. So I'm really proud of the sequel and how it turned out, and I think it's an excellent way to continue the story. So, yeah, I had no intentions to make it a sequel at first, but it happened. And to answer the second part of your question, yes, I can see more books coming out. I'm definitely gonna, yeah, so I'm definitely gonna make a third one. And I know the characters already that I'm gonna use and the story and what's gonna happen. But yeah, I would also like to make a fourth one, kind of like what The Hobbit did for the Lord of the Rings. Like make it a prequel and explain a lot of the questions that the first three have, But basically, I'm planning a couple more. But we'll see how it goes because, like I said, when it comes to sequels, I want to be very, very careful because I don't want to ruin the whole series. Like I don't want to do what A Nightmare on Elm Street did to its original one. Like I don't want to make really crummy sequels that ruined the first one. So I'm just cautious, but there will definitely be a third and hopefully a fourth one.
Well, I look forward to seeing whatever you decide to bring out because I know it's going to be good.
Thanks.
So to segue from that, you've written several short stories as well. And I guess just in a nutshell, how did you come up with those? And then why did you come up with those? Was it kind of like a breather from writing De Mortis, where it's just other ideas that popped into your head? Just kind of give us an overview on that.
Well, the short stories have actually spanned from before, during, and up to now. When I like in my published life, basically. So, I've written a lot of short stories in my life. Like even in high school for English papers, I wrote a really good one that I wish I would have kept on because it was actually really funny, but I didn't because I'm an idiot like that. But the first short story I wrote is called The Dumb Ones, and that was actually inspired by a true event. It's about these three university girls who just talk in their everyday life. They're just talking. It's mostly a dialogue, a short story dialogue, but it's the things they say are so funny because it's so not smart.
Just insipid.
Well, yeah, they're very insipid. Like they're not even close to the mark. But I wrote that. I wrote that in college, and I inspired it by girls that I actually knew in high school and college. So yeah, if you pick it up and you read it, the things they say are things that I've actually heard those girls say before. Yeah, so I just think it's funny, but it's also kind of offensive too. So I put a disclaimer in front because they're so dumb that they don't realize how offensive they're being. But I mean, it's if you're looking for a good laugh, I definitely. I've been talking. My throat's giving out. The second short story I wrote is called Cellophane and Lorna, and that's based off of my love for Greek mythology. Growing up, I read a lot of Greek mythology, and I still read a lot of Greek mythology. I've always loved Greek mythology and Shakespearean tragedies. So I decided to kind of throw my hat in the ring and write my own. So
nice.
Yeah, I can't remember if I published that. I think I published that after De Mortis was published. I'm not sure. It's been a while since I've taken a look at them, but basically it's about a goddess who gets overthrown by another god, and she disguises herself as a human man, and then falls in love with a human woman. But as we have it, it's not going to end happy because it's a tragedy. So. I really like that story, and I don't think it's everyone's cup of tea, but if you're a fan of Greek mythology, definitely check it out. Let's see. My third short story, which I know I definitely published after De Mortis. Actually, I think it was published after the second one too, Purgatory. That one's called The Littlest Hero, and it's actually kind of twisted because technically it's a fantasy / fairy tale because it starts off happy. It's about this little boy who he's like in this like magical kingdom surrounded by like animals that are like townspeople that are animals, and actual animals are balloon animals, and like the scenery is all candy, so it's like the forest is like licorice and the hills are chocolate rocks and stuff. So it's like basically like every kid's fantasy basically, but it actually turns out it's not exactly what it seems like. And I don't want to ruin it, but it's pretty twisted how it ends. But
That almost sounds a little bit like an Ursula Le Guin novel, like fantasy underscored by tragedy or something creepy.
Well, it's okay. So if anyone's watching this and they're interested, it kind of starts off like a children's story. It literally feels like you're reading a children's story. But I promise you, it's got such a dark ending. You're just like, wow, that just came out of nowhere. And it's like I wanted to tell you what it is, but I don't want to ruin it because I don't want it to be. I don't want people to I want, yeah, it's funny. Like it starts off as a kid's fantasy, but I promise you, it's actually way more adult oriented than it plays off. So,
Well, with that being said, too, lest we forget, where can people find your short stories as well as your full novels?
So there's different ways you can go. You can find my novels and short stories. The first one being going to my website, raekillhim.com. If you go to library, you'll find everything that I've published so far, and you'll find links to where you can get them. Currently, my books are available on 4 different platforms. Apple Books, which for those of you who don't know, is or Apple. Well, okay. Anyways, Barnes and Noble, if you have a Nook, Kobo, and Smashwords.
Excellent. Just figure I want to put this out there because you can get De Mortis and Purgatory through these platforms, and then her short stories are also available to leaf through. No pun intended.
My short stories are free because there's no point in pricing them at a full novel price, I guess. So yeah, my books will always. How do I say this? My short stories will always be free. So if you're very curious about how I write and my writing style and the ideas that I have in my head, hop on over to my website and check out some of my short stories. Those are free, and yeah, let me know what you think.
Perfect. So with that being said, you kind of made a couple of allusions, so I'm just going to ask you this flat out. Do you have any up-and-coming books that are in the works, being written / edited / coming out in the next year or so? Tease us.
Oh my God. I have so many. It's not even funny. I'm such a multitasker. Like I always have stories being written. So the most closest one or the one that's nearest to publishing I can't phrase this right. So yeah, I have a new one coming out very, very, very soon. It's going to be a horror book, and it's going to be my first and probably only interactive book. So the readers will get to choose what happens in the story, and that will affect the storyline and the characters. And it's a very ambitious project, but it's almost done. Been writing that for 4 years since I published De Mortis, so it is almost over. Hopefully by the end of the year, but I'm not holding my breath to it, so I'm going to say 2021. And then I have, let's see, several stories or series that I'd like to start with. I have a mini series that'll consist of 10 small books, and then a series, and then another series where I don't know how to describe it. Okay, so like television has different seasons, right, with a number of episodes in it.
Yeah.
I have an idea for a series with different seasons and so many books in that season. So I'm going to be getting to work on that first series of books, and then the following year I'll start working on the second one. So it'll be like an annual thing. And then finally I have. Well, it's already finished, but I have like a book of short horror stories that I'm going to publish. So it'll be just short stories that are, horror themed, and that'll be released pretty much right after Tortured Memories. So I have a lot of projects going on, and not to mention the endless amount of notebooks that I've written stuff in but have not typed up yet. So there's definitely going to be lots of work coming your guys' way.
Well, I can tell you, I'm extremely excited to see whatever you put out.
I'm excited too because I feel like my life has passed me by and I'm almost 30 and I only have 2 books published. I need to get this I need to get on the ball.
You're almost 30. That's precious. Thank you for making me feel old. Anyways, so you're a self-published author under the moniker of Lilac Flame Publishing. Now, the big question that's kind of in the back of my mind is what made you want to do self-publishing as opposed to linking up with those myriad of other publishing companies out there like Simon and Schuster or maybe even some vanity presses? And do you think you will stay self-published or do you think at some point you'll switch over?
So let me think. So I've been trying to publish books since I was like 12 or 13. Um, when I was like 10 or 11, I had this dream of becoming a very young author. Like I wanted that to be like, I wanted to be a young author because that was like an achievement, I guess. Like that was pretty inspiring if a kid could write a best-selling book, you know. But sadly, that never happened. Yeah. So, and at the time, I realized I was submitting like really crappy stories. Like definitely not the books that I have now. I had so many different like children's themed books that were just awful, and I understand why. But I spent years getting rejected by publishing companies and houses, and like I said, my biggest dream in my life was to be a published author. So that's all I ever wanted to do. So finally, I was like, how old was I? I think it was before I went into college, so I was probably like 17 or 18. No, I want to say because I was trying to publish in 17. Okay, so I want to say like 20, like in my early 20s. Like I got so tired of being denied and rejected by publishing companies that I was like, if I ever want my dream to come true, I'm gonna have to do it myself. That's the only way I can imagine it because I can't. I've been getting rejected for years now, and I'm just, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And they always, you know, and they always told me like a lot of successful authors have been published more than once. But it was like I've been rejected since I was 12 or 13, and I'm getting tired of that. So I looked into it, and it kind of put me off because you know self-publishing means you have to do all the work yourself. So that was a really big thing to handle. But when I was writing De Mortis, I thought, you know what, this might be my chance to actually do it and to make something for myself. So I really got into the idea of self-publishing, and then yeah, so I did that. And as the years went by to where I am now, I realized how much I actually really like it. Because when I self-publish, I have to not only write the book and edit the book, and then you know take care of it basically and polish it up. But I have to do the cover design, I have to do the marketing, I have to do the social medias, I have to do everything myself. So when you talk about it to people who don't know the process of self-publishing, or people who want to but don't know where to start, it seems like a lot, and it's really not when you get the hang of it. But like it seems like a lot, but I think it's very very rewarding because like I said earlier, I'm very anal about my work, and that comes right down to the cover design and how it's promoted and what, you know, like I like to be in full control of my book because when you get picked up by a publishing company or anything like that, like they tend to take over. They can edit it however they please. They can remove or add parts. They take over your book and they make it their own. And I don't like that. Like, I mean, obviously, as the author, I think my books are perfect the way they are. And you could agree or disagree with me on that one, but personally, they're perfect to me, you know. So I didn't like that idea.
Yeah, no, that makes perfect sense too. I mean, if you want to feel in control of your book, because that is your livelihood, you don't want to create a masterpiece and they turn it into something subpar.
Seriously, exactly. And I am very confident with myself and my skills that I'm not putting crap out there. So I know that if I just really focus on what I'm trying to achieve, I know that I can make my book look as professional as a traditional published book. Like I trust myself, if that makes sense. But yeah, and then another thing is that they create the cover. Basically, you just get no involvement in your book at all. They take it and they're just like, well, thanks for that. We're gonna make it perfect for you. And then um, authors get paid annually too. So like you don't get paid until a certain day of the year, and that's just we're a self-publishing. I get paid at like a certain amount of money. So like the website that I go through, or the site that publishes my ebooks, I have it to where every $20 I earn, it goes right in my pocket. So
Oh, wow.
hypothetically, yeah. So hypothetically, if I was selling thousands of books right now, like my bank account would be flooded with money, because every time it reaches a certain limit, then it gets deposited into your account. So I also did my research too, and there's a lot of websites that will perfectly spell it out for you, the difference between traditional publishing and the difference between self-publishing. And even though self-publishing doesn't have the market or that you want, there's actually way more benefits to self-publishing. So, and I'm actually really, really happy that I stuck this route. And to answer your question, I don't know if I'll ever go with the traditional publisher. I love the idea of it. I really, really do. Like, I love the idea of being picked up and being like an official author of that. My dream is to see my books in the bookstores, and being passed around to people, and just like I love the idea of just being everywhere. But I don't know, because I don't know, because I feel like if I'm gonna sell it off to people, and then I'm just gonna take it over and change it how they want, and that's my book. That's their book. That's their version of my book, and I don't want that. Like everything that I write and the way that I present it is how I want to keep it. So I guess the only way that I would be comfortable signing with a publishing house was if they kept it the way it was, and that's not going to happen. So,
like 100% of your stipulations have to be met, like step 1, step 2, step 3, all the way through from birth to burial.
Very, very much so. And that's the nice thing about self-publishing, is I can be, I guess, picky or selfish, like however you want to say it. I can do what I want with my book. Like,
you're in control of it.
Exactly. Like with self-publishing, you don't have to censor yourself, and that's another thing that I want. I didn't want to be censored for my work. I write fiction books, but I didn't want someone to read it and be like, this heavily emphasizes, what's a good analogy? This heavily emphasizes non-government and blah 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 blah. And it's like, so what? That's just how the story is. Like, I don't want, I didn't want to be censored. Like, I want the very first word on the first chapter to the very last word on the last chapter. I want that to be all me. So the only way I would ever agree to be published through a traditional publisher is if they just left it alone. But yeah, no, I really love self-publishing. I love being in control, and I freaking love to market now. Like, I thought that was impossible, but it's actually not, and I freaking love it. And I love the feeling of always being busy, and it just feels like you're running your own business, like you're always promoting yourself and your books, and I love that. So for those of you who are on the fence about self-publishing, I would highly recommend it as a start, even if it's just to get your toe in the door, and eventually get picked up by a traditional publisher. It's up to you, but I really highly recommend self-publishing.
Okay, cool. So just a couple more quick questions for you. This one we kind of already touched upon, but I think just to kind of broaden it, what are your goals for the next year? Like from as we're recording this to 1 year from tonight.
Well, that's very easy. 1 year from now, what I would like is to be living in England with my boyfriend, hopefully husband by then, and my career has pretty much taken off. Like, I want to have several more books published. Like, I want my library to expand and have more works out there, and hopefully I have an audience built up, and I'm getting more people, and I'm selling more books, and I have, and yeah, like the future is endless for me. Like, the possibilities are endless, and opportunities are out there. So by next year, I'm hoping to have a well-established writing career and something that I worked hard for on my own. With, I mean, with the help of with you and Meowdy, but like, yeah, like I want
Nice save.
to establish a successful career. Well, I don't want to sound like I'm taking all the credit, but yeah, like I want to have a pretty successful career right now. By then.
Yeah, I mean, I can't speak for Meowjit, but at least from my perspective, you know, it's as I've said to you numerous times offline. You know, it's an emotional investment. I'm just happy to see you gaining steam and continue to gain steam, and I have full faith that you will be getting people to check out your books and devote more time to reading your books. And then, of course, if I can do anything on my end, or Meowjit can do anything on her end to help. As I relayed to you that one time offline, the message that I got from Ellen Crosby, you know, having people to do the other stuff so you can focus on writing, that's nothing shy of a joy for me. So if I can continue to help you achieve your goals, you know, I'm going to.
Yeah, and that's awesome. Honestly, between you and Yajin and even Will, like I have never been happier. I literally like this is literally where I wanted to be for a long time, and we're just getting started. You know, like I've always felt like I've always wanted to be. I've always wanted to feel like I was busy with work. You know, like I've always wanted to work from home or work from my phone and just be busy all the time. And since I've stepped back from YouTube, I've actually been able to focus on my writing a lot more, and I'm reading a lot more, and I'm really happy right now because that's exactly where I want to be. So I'm gonna keep going on this path. And then by next year, I hope it pays off. So that's my perfect life right there.
I don't think there's anything stopping this train, to be honest with you. So one final question, and this is just for shenanigans' sake. What do you like to do when you aren't writing?
Well, that's very easy because I literally don't have a life. Well, since I stepped back from YouTube, I'm able to focus on other stuff that I have been lacking in before. While I was on YouTube, I was so busy trying to support everyone else, and I was always watching people's videos and live streams, and I was going crazy trying to help other people and support other people that I just kind of put my own stuff off. So since I've stepped back from that, I've been able to actually watch like TV now. Like I've been able to watch Hulu and Netflix and catch up on some of my favorite shows that I haven't watched in a long time. I can game more now. I can play a video game now without worrying about broadcasting it to my channel. You know, like I can do it for fun and it's relaxing. Like it's so relaxing, you know. And I'm reading a lot more books too. And I'm like I haven't been able to read in such a long time, but now I can actually sit down and read. And I finished Alice in Wonderland, and now I'm almost done with the sequel. Like I'm just reading so much more. Yeah, I'm doing a lot of stuff for myself now. I guess is what I'm trying to say. I've been able to really just focus on me and my writing and just relaxing on my downtime. So it's been really lovely.
Good. No, I'm really glad to hear that. So that's pretty much everything I have. Do you have anything else you want to throw in?
I think that's good. My voice is like really getting hoarse on me because I'm talking so much. But no, I think I'm good. I think I've pretty much covered everything I needed to do.
Okay. Well, before we call it a night, as once again, if y'all want to check out Rae's books, whether it's De Mortis, Purgatory, or her short stories, you can check her out at www.raekillhim.com. She also has a Facebook page and a Twitter page, and links to all of those will be in the description below. So take a look when you have a free moment, see what y'all think. I definitely recommend her. With that being said, Rae, thank you so very much for being on the cast. I really do appreciate it. And I'll just look forward to talking to y'all soon.
All right, sounds good. I'll talk to you later.
All right, so I hope y'all have a fantastic night, and I will catch y'all on the flip side, all right? Peace.
Bye.
Hey, y'all. While my gratitude knows no bounds for every single bit of love and support y'all have shown for me over the years, there are a few people that I legitimately want to take a few minutes to thank for their unending help and support. First of all, obviously, Christoph Rae, not just for being a sponsor of the Boogie Night Project, but also for letting me use his music from GABA Transistor for in my streams, as well as him kind of coming up with his own little fragment for my new introduction to the Boogie Night Project. And speaking of introductions, the intro as well as my YouTube banner page were done by the amazing Oren. You might know him as Oren VDK, as well as Oren from Couple Cakes. Thank you so much, Oren. I really do appreciate the time you took to put together everything from the banner to the beautifully done introduction that merged perfectly with Christoph's music from GABA Transistor. So big thank you to them. And also, this would not be possible with the help of my extremely amazing patrons, both current and former, such as Lexi Kitty, Silverleaf, Barry Grave, Harkov, Jeray, Larian, and Oren, as well as a few others that have come and gone over the years. Y'all, this would not be possible without your help and your support. I know I have not been able to provide much in the way of giving back in Patreon rewards, but I am in the process of revamping my Patreon as well as the rewards that I can do, so be prepared. I know I joke about it, saying that if you're morbidly fascinating, check it out, but if you do want to give to the Boogie Night Project, that is the easiest way to do so, and I am legitimately setting aside funds to buy more hardware for my computer, as well as making things look more professional. But once again, very big thank y'all to everybody who has supported me from the beginning all the way to the present, as well as those individuals that have gone out of their way to help. So once again, guys, thank you so much for all your constant love and support. My gratitude knows no bounds, and I'll catch you on the flip side, all right? Peace.